Hi guys, welcome. And who dat? I'm Joe. This is my channel, Rosenfield 10, and the whistles and bells are coming next week. But for now, I'm just your friend or your coworker who you bumped into and you've asked, hey, what do you think about the Saints this past weekend? Everyone's talked the Saints Cowboys game into the ground, so I'm probably not going to introduce anything new to the conversation other than to tell you how I feel about it. So, how do I feel about it? Saints 44, Cowboys 19. So, first I have to admit how I felt about it. In my last video, I predicted the Saints would win 31-19, and I was a little off. Now, I picked the Saints to win by double digits, and almost nobody else did that. But I was off because I didn't factor in the Saints scoring 2 more touchdowns and missing an extra point. But really good stuff by our beloved Bless You Boys in black and gold. And, you talked to me last week. That's what I thought about it. I don't know if anybody else thought the Saints could do that. Well, how did they do it? Exactly the way I said they should do it. You don't worry about Dallas's strengths. You focus on you and you do what you do and you do it well. And guess what? Micah Parsons and Tank Lawrence, whatever his name is, yeah, MIA. 5 total tackles between the 2 of them. They didn't get any pressures. They didn't get any sacks. They didn't affect the game other than Clint Kubiak has schemed the offense to make sure they weren't going to be effective. I mean, if you scheme away from one player, you're going to go to somebody else. And there were times when Trevor Penning and Micah Parsons were locked up one-on-one. Briefly. I mean, there was a little bit of everything there, and that's what I thought you had to do. You had to hit Parsons from everywhere. After the game, Parsons says he felt like trying to rush the quarterback against the Saints front was like going through a maze. He had never been defended that way before. And it's pretty awesome to see how this offensive line, who all of us Saints fans feel like is a suspect line. I mean, just across the board, we're just not sure what we're going to get. And except from McCoy, and you hope Ruiz. And lo and behold, it's Lucas Patrick with a 92 or 93 PFF grade. I don't think I've ever seen an offensive lineman get one that high, except for McCoy last week. McCoy, I think, was in the 90s this week too. It's crazy. So anyway, right now the unit, our offensive line, is the number 1 unit in the league. I didn't expect this, and we hoped that the scheme that Kubiak employed would cover up deficiencies, and it has, but it also utilizes players to their strengths, and that's important. There's this chess match that happens in football. And when you start trying to be reverse psychology with everything, you start to get away from what you're actually really good at. So, case in point, let's say that it's 3rd and 3 for the Saints offense and we put Taysom Hill at quarterback. Well, the defense is going to think Taysom's going to do some sort of quarterback run to get those 3 yards. And so you want to reverse psychology and be like, no, instead we're going to have Taysom Hill throw. Sure, there's the element of surprise, and if he's competent enough to do the play, but we can all agree that Taysom Hill's a better runner than he is a passer, right? So after a while, this second guessing stuff can take you out of what you're really good at. And you hope that the chess game, the cat and mouse thing, works in your favor. And it seemed like all of it did for the Saints against this opponent that was supposed to be way better than us, especially in the trenches, on both sides of the ball, actually, because Dallas's offensive line is really good. And the Saints' defensive line showed up with 3 sacks. So you hope this cat and mouse game doesn't take you out of what you're really good at. But it seems like Kubiak's offense is set up in a way that not only are we fooling them with what we're doing, but we're also playing to the strengths of our players. It's a question of having these players good enough, schooled enough to be able to take on all of these different roles. So Rashid Shaheed's got to be able to run out of the backfield if that's going to be a threat. He's got to be able to run when he's coming across as a wide receiver. For that to be effective, when you fake it and then you go somewhere else. We have to have tight ends that are good enough to block and good enough to get out in a route and catch the ball. All of these things have to work. These players have to be, skilled in a variety of ways. Like what we're doing, I don't know if every team could do it. You have to have specific players that can pull it off. San Francisco, and you think about a guy like Juszczyk and a guy like McCaffrey and a guy like Deebo Samuel, and you're like, yeah, these are special players. They can run, they can block, they can catch passes. You can line them up anywhere, and you need those players. And so this team, the Saints, our team, who I feel like, hold on one sec. Okay, I'm back. So our team, it's changed a little. We've seen personnel come and go, but it's relatively the same team of players that I feel are competent. We have a competent team. But now you've put them in a situation where you're utilizing their strengths. And lo and behold, this team is way better than we saw for most of last year. These players are really good. They're good in this scheme. And I feel like they're really good players because they're able to do all of this. Taysom Hill can line up anywhere. Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, they're a certain type of wide receiver, and you feel like they're not going to be able to run block. They're not going to be able to make contested catches. But lo and behold, these guys are still pulling this stuff off. Chris Olave's looking tougher. Rashid Shaheed is taking the top off of a defense that's supposed to stop exactly what he's doing, and he's doing it anyway because he's the fastest guy on the field. You've got Alvin Kamara who can split out wide, split out in the slot, and he can also come across the formation and pass protect against a guy like Micah Parsons. You're not going to do that all day, but you might have to do it once or twice in order for everything to work. And it all worked this past weekend. 39 runs, 17 passes. That kind of a balance is when you've taken it to the team. Your running game is working, or you've scored enough where you can run the clock out. And the other key to the game, to me, was the red zone defense. Dallas has a good offense. I know they're missing some parts, but they were able to move the ball down the field several times. They scored on us 5 times, but, we held them out of the end zone. They had one big touchdown, but every time they crawled in the red zone, they had to settle for a field goal attempt. And they scored 19 offensive points in the first week, and so I gave them 19 offensive points this week, and I was hoping we would not make the mistake that would cause a special teams touchdown for the Cowboys or a defensive touchdown for the Cowboys. And we did just that. That's how I came up with the number 19. And man, if the Saints can keep doing this, blowing teams out, you'll see the caveat in all of the Saints content providers saying it's not always going to be like this. We don't want to jump the gun. It's just the first 2 weeks. Yeah. We all know that. I'm basing everything on what I've seen. And it looks like the Saints are way better than anybody thought, including most of us, all of us. I started this year having the Saints at number 15 on the power rankings. That's where I thought they were. That was way higher than everybody else. Most people had them in the mid to lower 20s, 24, 28, 24 at the best. That's where the league, most of the outlets, publications have the Saints. I had them at 15. They win their first game convincingly against Carolina. And we all know Carolina's bad, but the Saints have to be pretty good to put that much up. So I moved them up to number 13. And that's where I had them going into this game with the Cowboys. I had the Cowboys at 3. And now that this has happened, the Saints are squarely in the top 10. The official NFL YouTube channel posted a power rankings video yesterday or today, and it has the Saints at number 8. And I don't know where they were at according to that metric last week, but yeah, I'm going to assume the Saints are going to be in everyone's top 10. I have them now at number 5. That's where they're at. I have Tampa Bay at number 6. I think the NFL channel, YouTube channel, had Tampa Bay at, I think, 12. I've got them at 6. I've got the Saints at 5. And when I get my whistles and bells, I'll be able to pull up the graph, and then we'll talk more about that kind of stuff. And it's hard for me to say these things without showing it to you. And you know, I'm not doing a podcast here. I'm just talking to you as a coworker or a friend that loves the Saints. The red zone defense was outstanding. Our defense in general was really good against a pretty good offense, a good quarterback. Dallas was good. They're not supposed to lose in the regular seasons. They've won every game in their stadium during the regular season for the last 2 years. So we're not supposed to go in there and win, much less beat the pants off of them. And when I saw the Cowboys fans talking after the game, a lot of them it was almost the same mentality. They all said different things, but basically what it was everyone thought they were great, and they drank the Kool-Aid, and now they ate some humble pie, and they have to go back and reevaluate. It's almost like reevaluate your character, because you bought into that stuff to begin with. And when you're on a team like the Cowboys with an owner like Jerry Jones, everything's bigger than life, and you can't drive through Texas without seeing nothing but sky. So, yeah, they basically were smelling their own, and guess what? That didn't work out. That didn't work out too well for them. That's a shame when you see something like that. I don't think a team in the league has eaten more humble pie than the Cowboys. I don't want to bash on the Cowboys, okay? If you're a Cowboy fan, you got a really good team. You scored almost every time you had the ball. I don't know if you punted, maybe once or twice. And the Saints stopped you on 4th down a couple of times, and we forced 2 turnovers. So, you know, that's how it goes. How about Alvin Kamara? Right now, I've heard some people say Derek Carr is up for MVP of the league. And I think within our own team, yeah, he's on a short list, but I think Alvin Kamara is the guy that's the MVP of the league right now. And he keeps this up, and yeah, we keep winning. I hear people say you can't win them all. Why not? There's never been a team that went undefeated through the regular season and then won throughout the playoffs and then won the Super Bowl. New England's the only one that came close since the Miami Dolphins did it in the 70s, of course. So, no one's done it, so you don't expect the Saints to do it. You start looking at this tough schedule that we have, and before the season started, you're like, my God, if we might be 2-4. If we're good, we might be 3-3, 2-4. Because losing to these good teams, Dallas, the Eagles, the Chiefs, and then dropping one of your divisional games, that's the first 6 games. We play all 3 of our teams in our division, and then we play these 3 playoff teams, Dallas, Philadelphia, and the world champion Chiefs. And you hope you're 3-3. I thought we would be 3-3. I thought we might drop one to a divisional foe, but we might sneak one against one of these three teams. And I had my finger on Dallas as the one we would beat because I'm just not sold on the Cowboys. And I don't know where I have them on my rankings now, but they're at the bottom of the top 10 now. I think Philadelphia is a harder out because they have a better running attack. They have a quarterback that can make things happen, a touchdown maker, and the Saints struggle against running quarterbacks. So they also have an aggressive defense, much like the Cowboys. If we can score 44 against the Cowboys, we can put up 44 against the Eagles. If we can score 44 against the Cowboys, we can put up a lot of points against any team we face. So I'm not one of those that says, well, can the Saints win these games now? I'm the one that's going to tell you, can the Eagles beat the Saints? I'm looking at that trip to Kansas City, and I'm starting to think, can Kansas City beat us? That's how good the Saints look. Yeah, it's not going to be like this all the time. So what? We play half as good as we played last week against Dallas, and we still beat them 22-19? Okay. If we play half as good, if we have a bad game. I mean, you're wondering, can the Saints win every game? I'm thinking, can they lose? Is there a team out there that's better than us that's going to beat us? The only reason I don't have the Saints at number 1 is because I'm pumping the brakes. I got them at number 5 right now. I got the Chiefs at number 1. I got the Texans at number 2. San Fran at number 3. Detroit at number 4. The Saints at number 5. And we've got a better record than Detroit. We got a better record than San Francisco. And, Kansas City hasn't looked great. They look like they always do. They find a way to win. They're going to win 11, 12 games this year. But they're going to lose 4 or 5. And the Saints might be one of them teams that beats them. The Saints might be one of them teams that they just can't figure out. Yeah, we've got more film now. Yeah, we've got plenty of film on this offense. If you run it the right way, it's really hard to defend. And there's a scenario where the offensive line moves during an offensive play. We move. Michael Parsons practiced all week against the outside zone, and he picks the right gap to shoot. Those offensive linemen move. There's a gap there for a second. You shoot that. You take the right angle. You blow up the play in the backfield. I mean, the reason why San Francisco lost the Super Bowl was because Kansas City started blitzing. And when those offensive linemen for San Fran were moving, there was a big gap, and the blitzer was picking the gap, and he was making tackles in the backfield. There's a way to defeat this system. You just got to be able to play call around all of this stuff. You got to confuse them with how you go about doing it. The play calling, I mean, it's just, Kubiak's a genius. Right now, he's the next hot head coach. It's 2 games. Right, it's only 2 games. It's going to be this way. No one's going to forget this happened. It's in the record books now. The Saints scored 91 points in their first 2 games. Only 5 teams have done that, scored that many. They all won the Super Bowl. And now we've done it. So let's see what happens. Why can't we be the Super Bowl favorites right now? I've got them at number 5. It's going to be hard, very difficult to keep the Saints out of the number 1 spot if we beat Philadelphia this week, especially if Kansas City manages to lose. And that team would be the Atlanta Falcons, who just beat Philadelphia last night, and Atlanta's got Kansas City this weekend. I'm looking at our offensive line, and Trevor Penning is a really good run blocker. So we can dispel the fact that Trevor Penning is an awful offensive lineman. He struggles to straight up pass protect one-on-one, and he loses all the time to quick guys that beat him on the inside. And he thinks too much. He doesn't have a lot of confidence, and he's not aggressive enough when he's a pass protector. So this scheme makes him a better pass protector because he doesn't have to do what he's deficient at every down. He gets to move around a little bit. He gets help constantly. And when he's left one-on-one, he's He's going to be okay. I saw Taliesin Fuanga get beat clean right off the snap on a play that the Saints ran. And Carr had thrown the ball within 1 second because of the play design. I was watching Fuaga on the play. He immediately gets beat to the outside. And this guy was going to hit Derek Carr in a half a second. But the ball was already out because of the play design. That's why Carr's playing with so much more confidence. Because these play designs are pretty good for him. It's some good stuff. You know, he's play action. The pocket's moving. He's moving. He's got quick reads to go to. He's only got one read to make and then 3 little quick outlets, and he knows where he's going to go with the ball when he sees the defense. And everybody seems to be frozen. The pass rushers freeze because they don't know. We're running the ball so well. I've never seen a team attack the outside and get success there all of the time. I mean, our offensive linemen are really good when it comes to getting out in space and finding your target and hitting it. It's impressive. Our defensive line. So I'm going to talk about the defense for a little bit here. Can't forget about them. The defensive line comes up with 3 sacks. They didn't have any sacks in the first game. They had all 3 sacks we had this week. I knew they were going to come. Of course, it's against a better offensive line, and we managed to make it happen. So I think there's going to be a combination of all of it. Last week it was a linebacker and a cornerback that got all of the sacks, and this week it was defensive linemen. Chase Young, Brian Bresee, Carl Granderson, they combined for 3 sacks, and Bresee has a strip. Young would have had a fumble recovery if he would have fallen on it. But the linebackers, once again, look great. Demario Davis breaks up a pass on like a wheel route 30 yards down the sideline, and then on the next play, he's blitzing the quarterback and making an impact behind the line of scrimmage. It's impressive for however old he is. And like I've said in the past video, Demario Davis has told Father Time to take a nap because it's not time yet. Pete Werner, he had 8 tackles in the game. So good stuff. And our secondary, once again, impeccable. I mean, yeah, the worst thing about it was Adebo getting 2 holding penalties. Well, early in his career, they would have been pass interference. So he's getting better. And it's always when Adebo has to be the number 1 cornerback because Marshawn Lattimore's out. And Adebo has to go against somebody like CeeDee Lamb, the best wide receiver in football. And sometimes he can get a little handsy, and sometimes he can hold that receiver to nothing. He gave up 1 big play. He and Tyrann Mathieu whiffed on a tackle, and 1 big play, and after that, the man didn't do anything. 30 yards. So, and Adebo comes up with an interception and a huge return that puts us basically in the red zone. Yeah, Paulson Adebo is a stud. And if that's the worst performance you're going to get out of the day, 2 holding penalties, okay, I'll take it. Kool-Aid McKinstry looked great. Alontae Taylor led the team in tackles again. He was laying the wood, and he was making plays on the ball. My favorite, I heard someone ask, what was your favorite play of the game? And, everyone goes to an offensive touchdown, and my favorite play of the game was when Alontae Taylor tackled Brandon Cooks on an attempted sweep, end around kind of thing. I mean, Taylor blows up like one of the fastest guys on their team. I know Cooks is old, but that's why you give him the ball. He's twitchy and fast, and Taylor just blew him up in the backfield. I mean, look, if our nickel cornerback is going to be making plays like that, and I'll tell you something else, Marshawn Lattimore is an incredible tackler, and that's something that you can miss. It's something that most teams don't have. If you have good cover corners, they can't tackle. And we've got guys that can tackle. We've got guys that can hit. When we signed Tyrann Mathieu, one of the negatives on him was that he wasn't 100% with tackling. It was almost like he was trying to tackle from the side. He didn't want to get hit, kind of thing, and he was getting older and slower, and you're worried about it. I think he may have missed one or two tackles in his first year or two at the Saints. But in this game against Dallas, he's knocking people out. He's reading the play and getting this interception. It's just marvelous. And the other safeties have to be doing their job well if the quarterback's going to throw where Tyrann Mathieu is. Tyrann Mathieu is able to be a playmaker this year in this defense because we're getting good play from the other safeties. Jordan Howden had an interception last week. Will Harris had an interception last week. Will Harris had a big Leda Wood hit on CeeDee Lamb in this game. I'm shocked he wasn't flagged for it. And that was all red zone defense. I mean, really good job by our secondary. So, MVP of the game is, once again, Alvin Kamara. I mean, I think he was my MVP last week. Derek Carr's on that short list. Taysom Hill. Just having him in the huddle is good enough. Hill has to learn how to run block. Now, Hill went to the hospital for something with his chest. He made the flight back home with the team. We're not going to know anything about that until probably tomorrow. I'm hoping it's nothing serious, because if it's a pec tear or something like that, then yeah, he'll be out for a while, maybe the rest of the season. I fear what this team is going to look like without those special pieces that we already have. And I was keen on getting an X-Factor type in the draft, this past draft, because you want to make sure you have enough players that can, do this. No one can do what Taysom Hill does. But when Taysom's in the huddle, you confuse the defense. We have lots of players like that, and as long as we're putting them in different spots, it's going to be effective. So hopefully we're still an effective team if Hill has to miss some time. But you can also go with MVP for Rashid Shaheed or Chris Olave, because they were very good. Olave, once again, run blocking when it counts, looking great, making a contested catch at the goal line, route running like the best in the league, and Rashid Shaheed looking like the fastest player in football. Tyreek Hill, Rashid Shaheed. That should be the way you go about it. And what else can you say about Klint Kubiak? Let's enjoy this year while we have it. I think Kubiak would be crazy to leave this situation after just 1 year if we have a lot of success, to go and be a head coach somewhere for a team that's probably going to be really bad because they're firing their head coach just because you get a number 1 draft pick or something like that. I mean, Klint Kubiak, you're a offensive coordinator now. You had your shot at it one other time for 1 year. And, you should do this for a couple of years. You should stay with Dennis Allen, who's one of the best defensive coordinators in the league. And you and Dennis Allen together can make one of the best teams in the league. And let's see what we can do. Let's roll with this. You got a quarterback that you drafted already in Spencer Rattler. So let's ride this thing out with Carr. You got your quarterback of the future. Don't go anywhere, Kubiak. Stick around. And Andrew Janocko and Rick Dennison and John Benton, all of our offensive, Williams, the wide receivers coach, they're all doing so. The tight end coach, Barone, I mean, look, our tight ends are asked to do a lot. I got to give him kudos too. I mean, the entire offensive staff, and this was Dennis Allen's choice. This is who he brought in, and we got to give Dennis Allen props. Right now, the coach of the year in the NFL, well, who would you pick? I'd have to go with Dennis Allen, the NFL Coach of the Year. Isn't that nuts? It is. It's nuts when you look so good after 2 games, you can seriously ask a question, well, how many offensive linemen for the Saints do you think is going to make the Pro Bowl this year? That's a serious consideration. Right now, you might have Fuanga, Patrick, and McCoy in there. Ruiz, too. Incredible job by Fuanga on the offensive line. So nothing but praise for this team. So they only have a couple more questions to answer for me. Can they stop a mobile quarterback? Well, we're going to find out when we play Philadelphia and Jalen Hurts this weekend coming up. Another question the Saints need to answer is, can they cover a tight end? Now, can we stop the run? So far through 2 games, we've proven we can stop the run. We haven't had to really cover tight ends, and we haven't had to really worry about a mobile quarterback. So those are the 2 things we have to worry about. That's what I'm looking at. The Eagles have plenty of tight ends they can throw to. And Jalen Hurts is a very mobile quarterback who scores massive amounts of touchdowns. and if he decides to run, especially if we play press man like we do a lot, it's going to be tough. I expect to see Willie Gay out there having a big impact. But we're going to talk about the Eagles at the end of the week. Right now, just going to say that's how I feel about it. We look like the best team in football. We keep playing like this. We are the best team in football. And I feel like even if we have a bad game, okay, we're not going to score mid-40s. We might score mid-30s. We might have to settle for 28 points. I'm watching the Saints score more points in the first quarter than most teams score in an entire game so far this year. Looks like the defense is winning everywhere, including for the Saints. So yeah, there's going to be more film on the Saints, and can we scheme our way out of that? Can we mask tendencies and stuff like that? I think we do so many things so well that it's really just a question of, is this how they're playing it? Okay, let's run this. Because we have the players to do it, a competent football team, given an imaginative scheme, a common sense scheme, can make this competent football team look great. Not just look good, look great. Offensive line is doing great because they look good. And we thought they were bad, but they look good. We hoped they would just be average, just be okay. But they look really good, which means this is great. I'm Joe. Subscribe to Rosenfield 10 for more videos about our beloved Bless You Boys in black and gold, the New Orleans Saints. And I will have those whistles and bells by next week. And until the next one, I'll talk to you later.